Alison Young. I'm with the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco.
So tell me about how you're involving citizen science in the outreach that you're doing.
So we just this last year kind of overhauled our citizen science program. We used to have a couple projects that were very observation-based, where people would send us, for example, some ant specimens or spider specimens, and we would do the identification process. But we realized that we wanted to make our citizen science projects aligned much more with the type of research that we do here at the Academy. So the Academy's been around for a really long time. We have the most comprehensive collection of California specimens of any institution. So we decided to think more about California biodiversity and use our historic specimens as a past baseline in certain places, and then to go to kind of those unique areas and try to create a comprehensive current baseline of biodiversity. And so we could compare those to the historical specimens to the current baseline, and then also have a really comprehensive current baseline to be able to monitor change moving ahead in the future. So just this last year, we kind of we're in a planning phase for citizen science, but we did actually end up launching a couple, we were calling them test cases at the time, that have now turned into full-fledged projects. We're doing a botany survey up on Mount Tamalpais, which is just to the north of us here in the Bay, in San Francisco, just right across the Golden Gate Bridge from us. And we have a lot of historical plant specimens from that area. And then we're also doing an intertidal survey down on a reef in San Mateo. And so we're involving our citizen scientists in actually creating that baseline and collecting specimens that are becoming part of our herbarium here at the Academy, and to help us kind of continue monitoring these places in the future.
Right. So would you have been able to do that contemporary baseline without the assistance of citizen scientists?
Well, I mean, it would have taken us so much longer is the issue. Just this last year, we know that it'll take us a few years to kind of get this baseline done. But just in this last year, say on Mount Tamalpais where we were working, we were able to catalog a third of the known plant species on the watershed that we're working on. We collected over 300 species of plants, made something like 800 observations while we were out there. And that if we had been using just our botany team here at the Academy, first of all, many of our botanists don't actually do research in California, so it would have been a very kind of select group that would have a chance to do that. And it'd probably be 2 or 3 people that there's no way that they could have done the amount of work that we did this year involving the public on their own. We had 4 field days, and we were able to catalog a third of the known plant biodiversity in the watershed, which is pretty amazing. So it's the sort of work that we're doing not only because we need the help to do it, but also that we want to get people more involved in thinking about why this sort of research is important.
Right. And so you don't have any question about whether or not it is science that they're doing or not, right?
No, I mean, for the Academy, because there's so many very broad projects that fall under the category of citizen science, we decided to really focus what our definition of citizen science was going to be. So any sort of project that the California Academy of Sciences was going to have would have to fall under kind of the 6 goals that we set out for our projects. And the first one for us, the absolute number 1 goal, is that it has to be tied into an active, ongoing research project here at the Academy. And so these people are actually doing science for the Academy alongside of our researchers to help us answer some really important questions about biodiversity in California.
Right. So can you tell me how do you deal with that from a publication point of view? Do like everybody that's out on the beach get listed in the study, or how does that work?
We haven't made it to that point yet. It'd be wonderful if we could do like the Zooniverse. I know Zooniverse tried to get all 170,000 of their participants on as authors of their papers. Right. We haven't gotten to that point yet. We aren't as working with quite as many volunteers. This year we engaged about 200 volunteers in our project, although we are looking to expand that moving into the future. I think that we'd at least try to put them into some sort of acknowledgments, but we haven't actually tried to publish anything yet. We're still definitely a couple years out before we're going to have enough of this current baseline done that we can really start looking to our historical specimens and making some, concrete comparisons.
Right. So, do you, when you mentioned the 6 things, are other aspects of it things like outreach, engagement with the public, education about science with the public, or what are the other tools or other metrics that you're using?
Right. So there's being involved in Academy research is a really important part. We want to be increasing science and eco-literacy in our participants. So that's kind of the education aspect that we're really looking at. Since we are a science museum, we want to make sure we're balancing that research and education. We want to be able to offer people involvement in the entire scientific process. So, most of the citizen science is about data gathering, but we want to be able to offer, like, if people want to help us with methods, or if people want to analyze data, if people want to disseminate results, that we have a chance to involve people in that sort of work as well. We want to make sure that we have multiple tiers of involvement, so that depending on the amount of time that a person is willing to give us towards this project, that they can still make a contribution that's important to the project. So we're looking at that. And then we also are interested in the use of technology, mobile apps, things like that, in the use of citizen science as well.
Okay. So what are you doing with mobile apps in terms of citizen science?
We have a partnership with iNaturalist.org, which is similar. I don't know if you're familiar with like Project NOAA or iSpot. So similar, but they're based here actually at the Academy. Very recently, they just moved to the Academy. And so they are kind of a mobile platform, both an app and a website for gathering, observations of the natural world, basically. And so we're really looking to them as a way to, because when we're out there with our citizen scientists, we're not only collecting data, but we're also collecting photographs. We used GPS-enabled cameras with our volunteers as kind of another way, kind of a stand-in for a specimen almost, because the GPS camera will tell us exactly where they were, when they took that picture, things like that. And so iNaturalist for us is a really nice way to keep those data and those photos together in one place, as a way to put them all together, and then also offers visualization, so you can kind of see the map and see how your observation is, compared to all the other observations that people are making. And also just kind of a way for us, because it really partners kind of a social network with a data gathering system, that we can keep in contact with our volunteers. We can all work together on IDing species. So for us, it's proved to be really powerful, as well as the fact that it's also a phone app. And so we're really looking to them as, the absolute lowest level of involvement could be going out with your phone and taking some pictures and uploading them to iNaturalist.
Right.
Still contributing something, because we know exactly where you were, and we have a photo, we can identify that species.
So let's talk a little bit about the data. I mean, one of the people that I talked to at the Aztec conference said that big data is sort of like free as in puppies, right? That you've got this responsibility, that you've got all these little dogs running around, some of which are dirty, right? In terms of data. So how do you deal with that body of data that isn't necessarily correct or complete, right?
Right. Well, I mean, luckily, the way that we've been conducting our project so far, again, this is kind of just the first year that we've kind of undertaken this big biodiversity study, is that we actually have experts in the field with our volunteers. Right. So it really helps in terms of knowing that we're getting at least relatively correct identifications, that our protocols are being followed, that we know that basically the way we've asked them to collect the data is in the correct manner. The nice thing about working at the Academy, though, is that after we collect specimens or photos, we actually have researchers here at the Academy that can also vouch. They can go over and they can look at those identifications, and they can, modify them if they're incorrect. That really kind of gives us a second step in that process of verifying those data.
Right. Okay. And let's talk about the researchers for a bit. So what kind of reaction, you mentioned some of the researchers, or many of the researchers, are not doing research in the San Francisco area. What are their reactions to the citizen science? Are you getting acceptance, or are you getting people saying, yeah, fine, whatever, but that's not really science, and I don't want to bother with that stuff, right?
Right. I mean, there's always a little bit of both. Luckily, at the Academy, our researchers are charged to do public engagement, basically, as being part of the science museum as well as a research institution, where they're asked to actually engage the public in talking about their research, or in being involved, outside of the Academy with the public as well. And so on the whole, there's actually quite a lot of support. Our dean of research is actually our #1 supporter in citizen science. He comes out to every field day that we have and helps us out. Right. have a lot of support. There definitely are, some researchers that don't see it as really being part of what they're interested in doing. But on the whole, we actually have really wonderful support from our research department.
Right. So just one final question. And you mentioned earlier that all of the citizen science projects have to be tied to research. Do you imagine a time when the reverse will be true, that all of your research has to be tied to citizen science?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely. As we hire new curators, pretty much citizen science gets put into the definition of what they're asked to be a part of, basically. And so I know in the past, in citizen science, it's kind of this new and burgeoning field, although it's been around kind of in many forms for a very long time. But as we kind of are moving towards more and more realizing the value of citizen science, that our curators are actually being asked to make sure that their research does have a citizen science component or can be tied to our citizen science projects in some way. And so I definitely feel, in maybe 10 years or so, that pretty much all of our curators will be involved in citizen science somehow.
Great.